Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. There will be a red coalition in the autumn elections to the Polish Parliament. This will be created by the Democratic Left Alliance, the Razem Party and Robert Biedron's Spring Party. The formation of the coalition was announced today by the leaders of all three parties, despite earlier suggestions that the New Left would be built without the Democratic Left Alliance.
Not one huge opposition bloc, but three separate opposition blocs will be running in the autumn parliamentary elections in Poland. Civic coalition grouped around Civic Platform, the Polish People's Party bloc, and the left-wing bloc with the Democratic Left Alliance, Spring and Razem. The leaders of this bloc emphasized today that the previous elections' broad opposition coalition was too broad, and now only the left orientation parties have joined together and have similar views, so no one would devour anyone because they have similar beliefs. This last dig was a reference to the recent EU elections as coalition agreement where the Civic Platform drove Nowoczesna practically out of existence. The leaders of the Left Alliance parties are focused on receiving the highest vote and say that this must be a goal of all opposition blocs, since the Law and Justice Party goal is to reach a constitutional majority. They say that the time for the specific list of candidates will come soon and the public will be informed as soon as the information becomes available.
We want and we always wanted to do our homework in democracy, which taught us that in Poland, the left always wins the elections whenever it's united. We are strong when we are one big, democratic, modern European bloc walking towards the elections. In the coming days and weeks, we will show you subsequent pillars of our program. We will introduce you to the issues on which we'll be running in these elections.
Dla których idziemy do tych wyborów.
Zobaczcie, jak ludzie potrafią się połączyć.
Just look at how people can be united. Look at what the people will be saying about Poland. Look at how we will be defending your interests, and look at the program we will provide. I implore you to help us. Left-wing parties are trying to build something, and as long as they manage to square off their differences, they can become a cohesive unit. I am not a huge enthusiast of the left, so I won't go on praising them, but this is completely understandable to me. I would do the same if I was in their place. In recent weeks, the opposition has been completely occupied with itself. Here is where they're united, here is where they're divided. These are the issues that concern our friends in the opposition. I would like this to end as soon as possible, so that we could speak about something substantive.
Robert Biedroń was asked if he's going to run for a seat in the Polish parliament himself and give up his EU parliament seat as he had announced earlier, but as of now he avoided giving an answer, stating that the decision has not yet been made.
The Sejm has passed a bill providing a monthly benefit of 500 zloty to disabled people unable to live independently. MPs also voted for the amendment submitted by the Kukiz 15 party, according to which the amount of the allowance will correspond to the level of the minimum wage. The bill will now go to the Senate. The new law is expected to come into effect from the 1st of October. A sticker with the inscription LGBT Free Zone will be inserted into the next issue of the Gazeta Polska weekly. This has provoked anger amongst the left, which compares it to the discrimination against Jews by the German Third Reich. The initiator of the campaign, Tomasz Sakiewicz, the editor-in-chief of Gazeta Polska, says that there is no discrimination, rather that the sticker is a form of opposition to the invasion by radical LGBT ideology. Sakiewicz does not intend to succumb to any pressure on this matter.
The LGBT Free Zone stickers will appear in Wednesday's edition of the Gazeta Polska magazine. The stickers have aroused a lot of controversy. The deputy mayor of Warsaw, Paweł Rabiej, has taken legal action in this matter.
I took legal action, as I said I would do. I hope that the prosecutor's office will take proper action and forbid the distribution of these stickers.
The US ambassador to Poland, Georgette Mosbacher, also commented on the matter. I'm disappointed and worried that some groups use stickers to promote hatred and intolerance. We respect free speech, but we have to stand by the values like diversity and tolerance. #We all are equal. A spokesman for the government, Piotr Muller, commented on the matter during his appearance on the Polsat TV station.
I wouldn't put this kind of sticker on my door. Generally, I'm very critical when it comes to the things that half of the LGBT community does, but I think that we should do something constructive about it and not create tension between different kinds of political groups or communities. And this is exactly what the LGBT community does.
Opposition politicians are openly critical.
To jest absolutny skandal. Znaczy, to jest
It is a shame that a newspaper funded by the government does things like this, and the ambassador has to tell us what's right and wrong.
faszyści postępowali z homoseksualistami i Żydami.
The editor-in-chief of the Do Rzeczy newspaper, Paweł Lisicki, disagrees with these words.
Katolików możemy było porównywać.
We can't put people who represent traditional values and those who uphold LGBT on the same level. It's weird for me that people do it. We can't compare the Catholics to the people from the LGBT community, or Jews or Muslims. It's a wrong comparison.
Ta akcja, te nalepki.
The editor-in-chief of the Gazeta Polska newspaper said that he won't give up the idea of the controversial stickers and that they will appear in Wednesday's edition of the Gazeta Polska newspaper.
Sławomir Nowak, a former close associate of Donald Tusk and the current head of a Ukrainian government agency, Ultratovodo, which is involved in the construction of roads in Ukraine, may have cause for concern. The new president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, announced that the state of the roads in this country is tragically poor because the money that is allocated to them is swallowed up by massive corruption. According to Zelensky, the management of Ultratovodo is to blame and should be sent to prison.
In our country, there will be roads when there are no more fools, they say. We must put the management in jail, those who for many years were working and living off these roads. Everyone says that there is no point in funding roads just because everything will be stolen.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.
Good evening, I'm Paulina Adlerstein and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Tonight the temperatures will vary from 14 degrees in Białystok, also in Olsztyn, and up to 16 degrees in the lower parts of the country. Also in Warsaw and Gdańsk we'll see 16 degrees tonight. Quite a bit of showers will be appearing in many parts of the country, but Łódź together with Olsztyn and Poznań should stay dry tonight. And let's look at tomorrow now. The forecast for tomorrow is looking quite good, but there will be a lot of thunderstorms, especially also in the lower parts of the country, also around Zielona Góra, Szczecin, up in Poznań and Bydgoszcz. Some parts will be very sunny though, like Warsaw and Łódź, but in Łódź some showers are expected as well tonight. Nice and sunny around Lublin, Białystok, with some showers as well, but they shouldn't be too long. And 25 degrees in the capital, 27 will be the maximum in Krakow, Katowice, as well as in Wrocław. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
Poland Daily Business Edition. Tonight we're going to talk about energy games that are being played in Europe, and our guest is Jakub Wiech of Energetyka24.com. You are chief editor of this portal. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
And you are author of the new book that is just on the market, and you are shedding a light on what are the strategy of energy delivery and how it's being seen from Berlin.
Yes, exactly. In my book titled Energiewende, The New German Empire, I'm reviewing the parts of the German energy transition in order to prove that this whole structure, this whole program has nothing to do with climate protection. It's just a strategy that is a very specific purpose, and the purpose is to strengthen the political and economical position of Germany in the map of the Europe, and the whole parts of the Germany Energiewende are, for example, quitting from the nuclear power or building Nord Stream 2 pipelines and actually supporting the renewable sources are profiled to, let's say, strengthen the influence of Berlin on the countries like Poland and in the other countries in the Central and Eastern Europe.
Well, it looks like you've binded the energy streams with the cash flow, and that's how. So what is the picture like?
Yes, exactly. Actually, when we look at the map of the Europe, we can see that Germany is building a gas hub in the center of the Europe, and the model of the energy transition proposed by the Germans has a lot to do with gas supplies. And when we look at the pipelines that are being built now in Europe, especially Nord Stream 2, we can see that Germany will have vast amounts of gas to trade inside Europe. And if countries like Poland or other countries in the region will copy the German way of transition, which means they will build vast capacities in renewables and gas, they will need a lot of gas, and Germany will be the trader of that gas. Germany will resell the Russian gas that will flow through Nord Stream 2 to other countries in Europe, and they will enrich politically and economically.
That is the conclusion of the analysis of the cash flows or future cash flows in that part of economy. Have you found any documents written by German authors, by German politicians that can also reconfirm your observation?
Yes, actually, the coalition agreement between CDU, CSU and SPD has some parts that highlights the real aim of Energiewende, and this part said that by constructing a European-wide Energiewende, Germany will be able to support the economy. So it's actually the direct confirmation of my thesis and all the things that I've written in the book.
So it's also we have energy like windmills or energy turbines produced by Germany. For a long time, Poland has been buying the second-hand or used engine and installed it here, while in Germany was their new systems installed. We had that most of the solar panels, the photovoltaics, also came through Hamburg and is being distributed in Poland by German companies. So lots of potential profit is going back to Germany.
Yes, it has a lot to do with technology, of course, and with the direct energy transfers. I mean, the energy that is being generated by the Germans might be bought by Poland or other countries that will follow the German way of energy transition.
Okay. Do we see? It is common knowledge that Germany is also the country that decides on the European-wide standards because of their role as the biggest economy of European Union. Do we see traces of that trend in the legislation imposed by European Union?
Actually, we can see that European Union follows the German path of fighting with the nuclear energy, and it's very important for ecologists because nuclear energy is considered to be the most climate-friendly way of generating energy. So it's quite hard to understand why Germany are fighting so hard with that technology. But if you analyze that the structure of the energy transition proposed by Berlin, you may see that nuclear energy and capacities in that technology are direct danger to the way of transition proposed by the Germans.
Okay, so we have a new book. The book is in Polish right now. Will it be published in English?
Yeah, it will be published in English and German too.
Okay, so when do you expect the translation?
In next several months, I guess.
Okay.
By the end of 2019.
Okay, cool. So the book will be also available for those who don't yet speak Polish, because I believe every one of our viewers is learning hard this language. Very interesting new German strategy being implemented since about at least 15 years.
Yeah, the first law that has something to do with supporting, for example, the renewables were published in Germany in the year 2000, but actually the traces of Energiewende has much more longer history, and they're anchored in the 80s and 60s and 70s in the times of, let's say, reshaping the thinking about the energy transitions.
Mm-hmm. So thank you very much, Jakub Wiech, Chief Editor of Energetyka24.com, author of the Energiewende New German Empire book, and thank you for that insight. And that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Good evening, welcome again to Poland Daily Weather. I'm Paulina Adlerstein. Tomorrow in Poland we are expecting quite a few thunderstorms, so we have to be careful, especially in the lower parts of the country, also around Zielona Góra, Poznań, Szczecin and Olsztyn. They shouldn't last too long, but still they will appear, and nice and sunny around Lublin, Łódź, also in the capital, as well as in the northeast and the northern parts, together with some rain as well. The maximum temperature tomorrow will be 27 degrees in Poland and Krakow, Katowice, and also in Lower Silesia around Wrocław. Now let's check what will happen in Europe tomorrow. So the best vacation areas should be Madrid with 39 degrees Celsius, so very warm. In the Athens we will see 33, 29 degrees will be seen in Lisbon, and quite a bit cooler around London, 25 degrees over there, 21 degrees in Oslo, but 26 in Stockholm, so nice, warm and sunny as well. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
Welcome to Poland Daily Culture. I'm John Carter.
And I'm Paulina Adlerstein, and today we're exploring the Museum of Anna and Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz in Podkowa Leśna.
They are one of Poland's greatest literary couples, so come and join us as we find out more about this literary couple.
Stawisko is the name which Anna and Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz gave to the estate they received as a wedding gift from Anna's father, Stanisław Wilhelm Lilpop, in 1920. In 1928, a traditional Polish manor house was built there. For over 50 years, it was their home and maintained its character as a literary and artistic center. Many people fell under the spell of its picturesque setting near beautiful woods, its tranquility, and indeed the unique atmosphere of the house itself. Many of the writer's best-known works were written there. During World War II, Stawisko became a place in which many refugees from Warsaw found shelter. The Museum of Anna and Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz was established there after the writer's death, in accordance with his will.
When it comes to the museum's exhibits, which one of them are the most interesting and the most connected to their work?
For me, the museum seems to have three sides. Firstly, we have permanent exhibition, and this is everything you see: furniture, paintings, things of everyday use, the china I mentioned before. Secondly, the museum's book collection. Our museum has over 20,000 books. But this is a subject that needs a separate conversation, because Iwaszkiewicz's library has not only Iwaszkiewicz's books. Thirdly, the most valuable things. Our museum's archives, Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz's manuscripts, starting with the first poem written in 1903 and ending with the last he wrote here in Stawisk. The iconographic collection is another part of our museum's collection. It includes Ukraine photography, so the photographs of the Iwaszkiewicz family made by Lilpop.
Ikonograficzne, czyli zdjęcia. Jest fotografia ukraińska, która przyjechała tu, czyli...
They kind of look like journalistic photos. We have all the photos of Stawisk. We can observe all the things that changed over the years. There were three important periods that we have to remember.
To Stawisko przechodziło na przestrzeni lat.
First of them, the 10-year period before the outbreak of the Second World War. The years after 1928 was a very good time for the Iwaszkiewicz family. But then we have the Second World War and the occupation. It was a very important time for the city of Stawisk, because landlords played an important role in helping people during war and occupation. After the uprising, nearly 80 people lived here in this house. There was no space on the floor.
Tu w stawisku w czasie wojny, okupacji, po powstaniu.
A famous writer, Jerzy Andrzejewski, slept here on the floor under Iwaszkiewicz's desk. But more famous and outstanding writers like Jerzy Waldorf, Andrzej Panównik and Czesław Miłosz appeared in the house.
Dlatego, że mogła żyć tu bez cienia egoizmu. Bo też nie powiedziałam, że dom został posadowiony na dużej...
This was the mission of Iwaszkiewicz family. Anna Iwaszkiewicz was a very emotional person. She said that this was the best time for her because she couldn't have lived without a shade of egoism.
Kupić jedzenie i tych wszystkich ludzi tutaj.
The house was built on a 30 hectares lot. During war, the lot was divided into smaller pieces, which were sold later on in order to get some money for food for all these people and gave them shelter for how long they needed.
W 1991 roku otrzymali Medal Sprawiedliwych wśród Narodów.
The Iwaszkiewicz family helped Jews during the war. In 1991, they were awarded the Righteous Among the Nations medal for helping Jews during World War II. The third period began after the Second World War. This is the period when Iwaszkiewicz became half man and half institution.
Wielu jego przyjaciół z grupy poetyckiej Skamander wyjechało i pozostało na emigracji. Iwaszkiewicz całe życie.
We have to remember that most of his friends members of the Skamander left Poland and stayed on emigration. Iwaszkiewicz spent his entire life in Poland. He accepted the situation created in Poland after the war. He became half man and half institution because, first of all, he became an MP.
Z krótkim okresem, kiedy Słonimski był prezesem, ale przez cały czas i to też...
Then he became the president of the Polish Writers' Union. Many writers complained about him, but when the election time came, they voted for him because they knew that only he was able to secure writers' situation.
Widocznie najbardziej płynny potrafił zabezpieczyć sytuację pisarzy. I jeszcze był szefem.
He was also the editor-in-chief of the Creativity Monthly Literary Journal, which functions still today. He was the editor-in-chief of this newspaper for many years, and this was another rich era of Iwaszkiewicz's life.
Życiu stawiska i Iwaszkiewicza.
Bardzo pani dziękuję. Thank you so much for this colorful story. Do kolejnej części.
Thank you very much. The house has retained its original architecture and now shows the life and work of people who lived there. The museum possesses several valuable collections. The archives hold the majority of Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz's manuscripts, which includes books collected by Iwaszkiewicz for many years, as well as some which belonged to his father. The photographic archive contains over 100,000 items from different periods, including those from an African safari in 1910. The museum also possesses an interesting musical archive with notes and musical manuscripts. In addition, the house contains a fine collection of Polish paintings from 19th and 20th century, as well as valuable pieces of furniture, works of art and objects of everyday use. Their interiors have maintained their original character. The house gives the impression that its tenants are only temporarily absent. As in the past, the rooms are filled with literature, music and art. Each year, many chamber music concerts, literary meetings and exhibitions take place in Stawisko.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. On June 28th this year, Poland celebrated the 100th anniversary of the signing of the Versailles Treaty. The Versailles Treaty forced Germany to allow a Polish state to be reborn, as well as respecting its western border. An accomplishment largely owed to the famous pianist Ignacy Paderewski. Today we will be speaking to the historian Dr. Krzysztof Jabłonka about the background, the implementation, and the importance of the Versailles Treaty. Poland reappeared on the map again after the Versailles Treaty, but I can imagine there were different inconsistencies during the Paris Peace Conference. And what are the great powers' attitude towards Poland as a whole?
Co do powrotu Polski na mapę Europy nie było wątpliwości.
There was no doubt about the return of Poland to the map of Europe. The Poles took part in the First World War, both in the partitioning armies as well as the independent army created in France. The only problem was in the relations between the powers and Poland. Right away it can be said that the Empire of Japan was indifferent to the Poles. They wished the Poles very well, especially remembering how during the Russo-Japanese War they supported the Japanese. The Italians were also very polite towards Poland. However, the three most important powers in Europe and America perceived this matter differently. It must be said that the voice of American President Woodrow Wilson was decisive here. He knew how to find and grant Poland broad rights. This was not only a contribution made by Master Paderewski, but his personal advisor, Robert Hughes Holmes, who would explain to the president Poland's complex history and its right to not only regain its independence, but also its dignity. The extreme opponent to these ideas, however, was Welshman Lloyd George. David Lloyd George himself denied his own people and would not understand why the Polish did not want to become Russian. Great Britain for a long time awaited the return of former Tsarist Russia, for which it reserved the devotion of Polish areas under its rule. As a result, the Poles constantly had an opponent, a very powerful and important one, the British Empire. The determined and very consistent ally of Poland turned out to be Georges Clemenceau, who was nicknamed Tiger, as his way of arguing was very aggressive and was said to tear apart his opponents. However, to Poland, he was a gentle and caring friend. He was an heir to the Napoleonic era and at the same time understood well that in order to maintain the Germans in Europe, a so-called Eastern bracket was needed. He, upon witnessing the collapse of Russia and the rise of the Bolsheviks, saw this in the Poles. This is why he did all he could so Poland would become at least partly a power which could keep the Germans in check. Ultimately, Wilson was the one to reach a compromise between these three ideas. This included, for example, the city of Gdańsk not belonging to the Germans nor to the Poles, becoming a place of rivalry and intermediation, and eventually becoming the bone of contention and ultimately the cause of the Second World War. This was not set out by the treaty, although it is a pity that the city's connections with Poland weren't discovered then. Despite the German population dominating the city numerically, it could have been restored to Poland according to pre-partition state. The treaty itself was not the cause of the Second World War, but its dismantling. It was through the resignation from many demands that the Poles lost the opportunity to influence Gdańsk and ultimately were attacked. This was the real cause of the second, bloodier and more terrible World War, after which there was no Congress or treaty.
Było prawdziwą przyczyną drugiej, jeszcze krwawszej i jeszcze straszniejszej wojny, po której już nie było żadnego kongresu ani żadnego traktatu.
The Treaty of Versailles only ended the war with Germany. Separate treaties were also signed with the other powers, which had fought shoulder to shoulder with Germany. Next up, we will ask Dr. Jabłonka about the importance those treaties had for Central Eastern Europe. So outside of the Versailles Treaty that we've been talking about, I was wondering if there were any other treaties or papers signed that come together to aid in ending the First World War.
Ostatecznie zwycięstwo państw Entente odniesione zostało nie tylko nad Niemcami.
Ultimately, the victory of the Entente states was not only exercised over Germany, but also 4 other countries, one of which, Austria-Hungary, divided into 2 countries. In total, 5 treaties were needed. Thus, the 4 remaining treaties were referred to as the Versailles System. The first of them was already signed in September in Saint-Germain-en-Laye. It is a small palace near Paris Paris, to which the whole delegation travelled to with Austria. As a result, all non-Austrian lands, meaning without German-speaking Austrians, were effectively separated from Austria and regained their independence. The Czech Republic, Galicia, with the inhabitants of Poland and Ukraine, as well as Slovenia, which joined Serbia in Yugoslavia. Even Austria was allocated a fragment of Hungary, for which the Hungarians still cannot forgive the Austrians. The next treaty was with Bulgaria. This one was short. Bulgaria was defeated and its border territories cut off. Dobruja in the north was taken over by the Romanians, Serbia took over part of Macedonia, and Greece took away from Bulgaria the areas that it once acquired from Turkey. A much more difficult situation was with Hungary in June 1920, which were dictated an extremely difficult peace treaty in Trianon. If it can be said that some treaties were silly, it would be in the case of the Hungarians. They were deprived of 2/3 of their historical territory, and around 3 million Hungarians found themselves outside their own country. This was 1/4 of the nation, and it was ignored that the Hungarians had a right to their countrymen. Therefore, the Treaty of Trianon is considered to be the biggest trauma and day of mourning for the Hungarians. The Czechs broke off Slovakia to form Czechoslovakia, the Romanians broke off Transylvania and Banat, Serbia took away Vojvodina, and even Austria took away Burgenland. The last treaty was signed in Sevr with Turkey, which took away all the non-Turkish lands, all the Arab countries, and also made Constantinople an international city. Armenia regained territories on which the Turks had previously murdered almost all of the population. They regained the right to the land, and the Kurds were granted autonomy. Unfortunately, due to the national revolution of Mustafa Kemal Pasha, better known as Ataturk, the Turks rejected the Sultanate as they recognized it was another state, and they went on the offensive by refuting the last treaty, and after a few years of war, they defeated both Greece and Armenia. They signed a new treaty in Lausanne, no longer in the Versailles system, in which not only did they regain the lost Armenian countries, they conquered the Kurds again and regained Constantinople and the Greeks' land both at the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. In the end, Greece was separated from Turkey only by the Aegean Sea. The Versailles system ends with the Treaty of Washington, as the United States changed its president in the meantime and did not ratify the Treaty of Versailles because of this, and also not joining the future League of Nations with their headquarters in Geneva. They signed a separate treaty with the Germans in 1922 called the Washington Treaty. Therefore, the entire system of all signed treaties is commonly referred to as the Versailles-Washington system. For the Poles, one thing was disastrous. During the Bolshevik War, Lloyd George ordered his Secretary of State of Foreign Affairs, Lord Curzon, to write a note to the Soviet government demarcating Poland from Soviet Russia. In this note, a line called the Curzon Line was established, in which not only the city of Grodno, Vilnius or Brest, but also Lviv was granted to the Soviets. The Poles defeated the Bolsheviks and disregarded this line, but with the Second World War, Stalin, along with Churchill, returned to this old line. This line was also faked by Namier, a Polish Jew named Namierowski, who hated his former homeland and moved the line from the east of Lviv to the west. Currently, you need to travel around 100 kilometers from the Polish border to Lviv. It used to be a powerful, developing city full of Polish culture with a large number of Jewish and Armenian inhabitants. The city was destroyed and the university was moved to Wrocław. Lviv was no longer what it was before the war.
Miasto zostało zniszczone, uniwersytet przeniesiony do Wrocławia, Lwów dzisiaj już nie jest tym Lwowem, co był przed wojną.
As we have seen today, the Versailles Treaty was crucial for Poland to reappear on the map after 123 years of partition by Russia, Prussia, and Austria. The Polish delegation to Paris had to work hard to convince the great powers to draft a treaty that's favorable to Poland. It was made possible by the excellent cooperation between the three fathers of Polish independence, Piłsudski, Dmowski, Paderewski, showing just how much can be done by working together. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. Now see you next time on Poland Daily History.
and welcome to Poland Daily Travel. This next series of episodes will take you to Konstantin, just south of Warsaw. It's about 20 kilometers from the Palace of Culture in the center of Warsaw. Konstantin is famous as a spa town. It was started about 120 years ago, and people still go there on a regular basis to take the waters. We'll also stop off and have a conversation and a meal with Nick Richardson at the Park Cafe and Restaurant. This is one of the fine outdoor eating experiences you can have in the whole area of Warsaw. The Kolczynski family always makes everyone feel welcome. So enjoy the weather, and we hope you enjoy the conversation. Stay tuned for Poland Daily Travel in the beautiful garden suburb of Konstantin, outside of Warsaw. We sure do appreciate you watching. If you really like what you're seeing, why not subscribe? It only takes you just a second. It's a small moment for you, and it means a lot to us. So keep watching Poland Daily Travel. Tell your friends. We'll see you next time. This is Will, signing off.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Poland Daily Travel, where we are in Konstantin, the suburb of Warsaw, where the rich people live. It's the Beverly Hills of Warsaw, isn't it?
To a certain extent, yes.
I mean,
And there's some
it's a bit
marvellous
crass, but-
houses.
Yeah, it's got beautiful houses. I mean, just across the street from here. This is a beautiful house. And there's a whole row of these kind of houses over here.
Yeah.
And street after street,
Yeah, yeah.
actually. This was, of course, the great garden suburb, par excellence, really,
It
100
was.
years ago, wasn't it?
Set out as such.
Yeah, and not just in, I mean, it was a model for such things all throughout Europe. You know. But this house is fantastic, the Park Cafe. It's a great place to come and relax, hang out. The park here is beautiful. And you just get out of the city and you feel like you've already traveled. That's what I like about coming here.
It is remarkable in that
It's
sense.
almost like being in England in a way, isn't it?
Yes.
There's some roadside, you know, you went to Oxford, near Oxford. I keep bringing that up because I'm
Yes.
very amazed that you did.
Well,
Not because you shouldn't have, but it's nice that you did.
Well, I suppose you're from America.
Yeah.
This history probably fascinates you.
I went to St. Andrews, you dummy.
Yeah, but you're still
Talk about
American and you're
history.
still fascinated by
Talk
history.
about- well, of course I am. Yeah. Yeah, don't get me started on the American Civil War.
No.
Or the American Revolution. I can go on and on. Yeah.
Good. The Revolution's a very interesting period in American history.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
particularly one that would concern you.
Yeah,
and I.
yeah, but I think that and the
Looking at it.
and particularly the right of the American Constitution, I think, very interesting. And that's relevant today with this suggestion that somehow the Electoral College be reformed.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
No, I don't agree with that either. Otherwise, you'll just have four main big states and nobody else's vote
They
will
will
count.
decide everything, the big cities. I don't understand why people can't see that.
Well,
You know.
none so blind as those that will not see.
Yeah, but the other thing, it's not so surprising that a Southerner wouldn't like that, or would be against that, because we tend to have the more, I say we, but the more rural states tend to be in the South. And the whole thing has always been that the Northeast was part of why we fought a civil war.
Yes.
There was a civil war. I mean, we Americans fought a civil war. I wasn't there.
Really?
No, I didn't own slaves.
I had my, but the Civil War was nothing.
Everybody
to do,
thinks Southerners owned slaves. I didn't own any.
I know, but the Civil
I never
War.
saw anybody with
But the Civil War was nothing to do with slavery anyway.
Yeah.
This has been a modern invention. Folk have a grievance, so let's rewrite history too.
Yeah.
Like the removal of all these statues of Civil War
Yeah.
generals and so on. It won't be long before they're removing Jefferson and Washington statues because they had slaves. I mean,
Well, this is a ridiculous thing. It's like going back Roman history, throw it out. They had slaves. You know, I mean, where does this kind of idiocy stop? You can't rewrite history by your own rules. And who's to say everything we do is correct anyway?
well, exactly.
I mean, the biggest wars ever that killed the most people, and not only wars, were these events of the 20th century.
Yeah, and all wars fought
Yeah.
in the name of the so-called common man as well.
Yeah. So so let's not get too excited that I think that we're so much smarter. I mean, it's another reason I like history. Because history teaches you that you're not as smart as you think you are.
No, exactly.
Are you?
Not at all.
And one isn't. Yeah.
One isn't.
None of us are. A little humility would go a long
Well,
way.
that's what's lacking in the modern
Yeah.
world, humility.
Yeah, it's true.
Tradition. I think, was it Edmund Burke who said, tradition is the vote we give to those who preceded us?
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was Edmund Burke, but it's the sort of thing he would have said. But somebody did say it. And that's right. That's why we have tradition, because we're saying that the people who went before us, in all walks of life, whatever it was, they knew something. We should respect that and take that into account.
We should do a whole thing where we should make a documentary just talking about these things.
But that is, I think, one of the general tragedies that I'm sure when I was a child, there were on television programs where people did talk about these ideas. And I think
they used to be.
Yeah, nowadays it's all...
Where are they now?
Well, exactly, that's the point.
Well, you see them on the internet, but you don't see them on proper television. But do you watch proper television?
I don't watch proper. I only watch stuff on the internet.
Neither do I. I don't even have one. I mean, I have a screen, but I use it for
I watch
computer.
stuff on computer.
Yeah, me too.
I don't actually sit down as I used to.
There's somebody saying to me...
With a cup of tea and watch the news and then whatever followed it.
No, but I used to.
Yeah, I used to for
when
many,
I was a
many
kid,
years.
I did, yeah. But that's long gone by the wayside for me. But I think for a lot of people, I don't think that's unusual, especially young people.
So it means that they're not actually, nobody's
TV.
exposed to any of the ideas which our parents' generation, the generation before, took for granted.
My daughter never watches
And this
TV.
is the problem. They don't have any...
Yeah.
It's though they have no sense of anything apart from the today and the now. And no sense of values, or it's just what is it now, what is convenient for me today. And this is a shame. And the politicians, of course, are largely to blame. I think they themselves are lacking in any historical appreciation, by and large, most of them.
What does travel do? Since we're on this subject.
Travel broadens the mind.
I was thinking the same thing. But what does it mean? But that's the old saying. Who said that?
I can't remember who said it. It must have been somebody very wise, because it's absolutely true. But and I think the greatest thing about travel is, apart from that you see interesting things, is the comparative knowledge it gives you about you see your own country in a different light. I mean, since I've been living in Poland, I've seen the UK in a completely different light. It gives you a much greater sense of perspective.
Do you know what I've found?
And you think, and then you can see your country as others see you, and you can, and in my case, as an Englishman, you think, I think, crikey, we were for so long in our history so lucky that our institutions worked so well compared to those that prevail in other parts of the world. And I genuinely think that. We had the common law, which you have in America, of course, and we had a system whereby it took time to get there, but whereby power was controlled. The citizen did have power vis-a-vis the state. And you come to continental Europe, where that, by and large, for most of the time, has not been the experience. And you think, crikey, we were so lucky to have that. Why don't more of our countrymen today, as they tear themselves apart over Brexit and other things, realise how lucky they were? And the reason they don't realise how lucky they were is because they've not travelled as much, they've not lived abroad, they don't have that sense of perspective, so they don't see it. They can't see the wood for the trees, so to speak.
So to speak.
So I think that's what travel gives you.
And it's worth speaking. Yeah, travel runs the mind. I find the more I stay abroad, and I've been mostly abroad, I mean, since I was, I haven't lived at home really since I was 18, but, or 17 actually. But I find the more I stay abroad, the more American, or certainly Anglo-Saxon I feel. And that is nothing about,
well, that's because you hold on to certain values, you see.
Well, I think they become even stronger, because people may tend to think, oh, you're living abroad, so you become less yourself. I become more myself.
You become more yourself, because that's something you cling on to.
Yeah.
Because you're surrounded by a not strange, but a different way of doing things. And so, as human beings, we all need the security, I think, of feeling a sense of place, a sense of home, some common values. And as you live abroad, you're surrounded by definition, a different place, different home, different set of values. So you cling on to what you were brought up with. But also, I think, is the point I made earlier.
Well, that gives you your identity.
It
doesn't mean. I think it helps me to appreciate being, for example, in Poland, where I've spent a lot of time of my life. I mean, I don't feel Polish, but I feel, I can say, a real fondness for this part of the world.
Yes.
A deep and abiding enjoyment and certainly an understanding of the place. And that's very satisfying. But it doesn't, I don't feel Polish, though.
No, I don't feel, I have no desire to be, no, I mean...
But I appreciate Poland.
Yeah.
But there was the Scottish guy who became mayor of London about 400 years, mayor of Warsaw about 400 years ago.
Was it?
It was a Scottish guy. Yeah.
Well, I think if you're Scots, you would want to become mayor of somewhere else.
And we found the weather was the only place where the weather is worse is in Scotland in the winter. I tell you, St Andrews did have the worst weather I've ever seen. But I don't know if it's. I don't want to. We don't want to drag this point too. Make too much of this point. But I think for people, I think the point is to say to people who are watching, I feel like I'm traveling all the time. Because I'm not in those familiar places. Now I'm going to be in the United States soon for a few weeks. And it is a bit relaxing when you're there because everything's so easy. Not because everything's easier. Everything's easy here now. You have every convenience you want. But it's the language you understand. All the references are so easy. There is no having to be particularly sensitive.
Yes, you're with a familiar mentality as well, which is the other point.
And I think that's instructive for anybody who wants to come and visit this part of the world, that it's great, et cetera, et cetera. It won't change you. You'll still be yourself. You might become more yourself, and that would make you more valuable to your surroundings, your different surroundings.
I think that's right.
Does that make sense?
It does make.
It feels like it's right.
I think it is right.
If I'm talking nonsense, put some comments after this show. If you don't think that's true.
No, for once you're actually not talking nonsense.
You think it's the one time I'm not being stupid?
It's a rare moment, yes, a rare moment of clarity.
Unusual, yeah. Good Lord, it must be this good Sauvignon Blanc.
The Sauvignon Blanc is clearly stimulating the grey cells.